It's more than 230 million people are spread across a vast archipelago that's rich in natural resources, including oil and gas, coal, minerals and palm oil. Those commodities are an important source of foreign exchange earnings, but exports only account for around 25% of Indonesia's economic growth. And that, coupled with the fact that it has the fourth largest population of any country, will allow it to keep growing at an enviable 3.5% to 4% this year.
Indonesia is lucky because it is the biggest economy in ASEAN. It has the biggest domestic market in ASEAN. And because of its large domestic market, it is less affected by the global crisis.
During the Asian financial crisis a decade ago, income per person slipped back to around $1,000 a year. It's double that today. James Riyadi heads a major conglomerate with interests in real estate, financial services and media. Like many, he sees huge possibilities for Indonesia in the decade ahead.
Indonesia would have gone into a 5, 6, maybe 7,000 per capita income. There will be a consumer boom. This society would have been much well off, much more educated, and not so much in size, I think, but I think in the way that Indonesia becomes a model, what a developing country in terms of growing in maturity, in democracy, in economic growth will look like.
Indonesia has been a democracy for just a decade now. Yet despite its vast size and its ethnic, linguistic and religious diversity, it has shown surprising democratic maturity.
But the process is fair and open, the press is wide open. I think it's really a democratic success story, one that you would have been considered a wild-eyed optimist if you'd have said in 1998, this is what will happen.
Such achievements, along with Indonesia's economic potential, have largely been overlooked by outsiders. The country with the world's largest Muslim population has also often been misunderstood, with the action of a handful of Islamist militants hurting the country's image internationally. In fact, the vast majority of Indonesia's Muslims are extremely tolerant and moderate. Women, for instance, play a prominent role in society, holding senior portfolios in government and high positions in public institutions and business.
It's not like in other countries where we are so limited. In Muslim countries where you have to cover up. In Indonesia, we are quite free.
The recent parliamentary elections strengthened the position of secular parties, none more so than that of President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, who is due to stand for re-election in July. Under Yudhoyono, the pro-business government has been credited with tackling most of the issues that have worried Indonesians and foreign investors alike, particularly corruption.
Well, I've lived in Indonesia for over 30 years, and I've seen a lot of anti-corruption campaigns. And in my view, this is the first non-cynical attempt by the government to tackle corruption. Serious political figures, serious business figures are going to jail.
Yudhoyono is expected to be re-elected in July, and though he will still have to form a coalition, for the first time, his party will form the biggest bloc in parliament.
That would give him a bigger ammunition politically, political capital, to continue his reforms in a most progressive manner. We can expect that there will be continuity over economic policies and agenda over the next 5 years.
That continuity should allow Indonesia, led by Yudhoyono's highly regarded economic team, to swiftly return to its pre-crisis growth level.
Our fiscal stimulus is now being directed to improving infrastructure, also addressing social welfare. Hopefully we'll have the foundation to be able to take off again, maybe in another 2 years, to go back on track for a 6 to 7% or even higher rate of growth.
An impressive target that seasoned observers feel should be attainable, as long as the government does make long overdue improvements to infrastructure and continues to improve legal certainty for investors.
A peer group for Indonesia in terms of economic development, I think, is very much Brazil, Russia, India and China, a little bit higher growth, but also similar stories, similar processes. Indonesia belongs really in the top tier in my view.